All right, so hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Writers Aren't Always Right. This is episode 6. So, by this point, I'm thinking maybe I'm starting to see a pattern with these writing advice articles. This is just a very short Fox note. The aim of all this so far, is to find the best writing advice article out there. Is this even possible to do? Soon, we're going to have to start comparing the articles that we've been looking at. And I found something very interesting in that these articles that talk about the steps for writing fiction, there's something to compare there. Might be interesting. So, the old good thing is that you can have me on in the background while you do things because I read everything and tell you everything. And I have a nice flowery background for these words right now. You can look, but you don't have to. You're not missing out. Okay, so this actually starts a new article. Yes, because it's episode 6. Out of the top 6 results of my search on Google when I typed in how to write a fiction novel. And I searched this in July last year. Oh my gosh, that was July? It's been too long. It's just been way too long. We need to start getting through these faster if possible. So the next one is, this is the top 6 results. This is the second from the top. An article by Jerry Jenkins. He also has a YouTube channel called Jerry B. Jenkins, and that's how I found out about him for the first time. I didn't know he had an article on this stuff, but it's not surprising. Actually the number 3, it would have been a number 3, the top third search result, which was Masterclass, 16 Writing Tips for Fiction Writers. But I've actually already covered 16 writing tips for fiction writers. So you can go and check that out. It's another video. Maybe I'll put a link in the description if I remember to do that. Yes. So we are going to do Jerry Jenkins. This was published on November 15, 2021. How to Write a Novel, a 12-Step Guide. And now with these step things, I am going to be very strict about these steps because this is implying that you need to follow this in this order. And so it's not going to be anything else. And so we're going to look at this article. I'm doing a new thing right now, actually. I usually have my headphones in and I'm listening to my voice, making sure it's recording and everything. But I did a test run before this, so I'm pretty sure it is recording. And yeah, it feels very weird without the headphones on. Anyway, we're going to get into this. So, how to write a novel, a 12-step guide. He writes in the beginning, this little part here. You've always wanted to write a novel, but something stopped you. Maybe you've tried before only to get a few or several pages in and lose steam because your story idea didn't hold up, you couldn't overcome procrastination, you feel your writing wasn't good enough, you ran out of ideas and had no clue what to do next. You may be surprised that even after writing 200 books, 2/3 of those novels over the last 45 plus years, wow, Jerry Jenkins really has been doing a lot of stuff, including several New York Times bestsellers, most notably the Left Behind series. I face those same problems every time, which is reassuring. Someone has experienced, supposedly, it's Jerry Jenkins. I say supposedly because, what is experience anyway? Someone who's written as many books as Jerry Jenkins still faces problems that everybody else faces. So that's nice to know, right? What is experience even? Like how do you know that you have a lot of experience versus somebody else? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Do I have a lot of experience? Am I credible? I don't know. Sometimes I think about that. Am I a credible person to give writing advice? Do I think I know things? A lot of the stuff that I've learned about creative writing is just on my own, listening to other people. Anyway, moving on. So how do I overcome them and succeed? I use a repeatable novel writing plan, one that helps me smash through those obstacles. Smash. And that's what I review to you in this definitive guide. Imagine finishing your first draft. Better yet, imagine a finished manuscript, or best of all, your name on the cover of a newly published book. Does that excite you? Imagine letters from readers telling you your novel changed their lives, gave them a new perspective, renewed hope. If other writers enjoy such things, why can't you? Of course, this goes without saying, but first you must finish a novel manuscript. This guide shows you how to write a novel based on the process I used to write mine. I hope you enjoy it and can apply it to your own writing. Okay, so he is really good at admitting that this is his process. And so he's saying, I hope you enjoy it and can apply it to your own. He doesn't say that this is the 12-step guide, the only 12-step guide that you should ever follow in the entire world. He's saying, this is my 12-step guide. This is what I do, what works for me. Maybe it will work for you. So that is something good to say. That is something that I want all these writing articles to say. So this is a good start. By the way, I should mention that I found out Jerry B. Jenkins on YouTube because I was trying to figure out if one of my characters was an anti-hero or not. And he had an explanation of what an anti-hero is. And he had a very good explanation. I thought, I like this guy. So I think I subscribe to his YouTube channel. I might link his YouTube channel in the description. So you guys can go check it out. He has little videos, short little videos. He does it with some other people too. I don't know who the people are. Maybe his family. I don't know. Anyway, so that's that. Let's move on to, this is going to be a two-parter. Yes, so there are 12 steps. So unlike the Reedsy article, which is the last React video, this one has exactly 12, not 13. So I can separate it 6 and 6. So the first part 1, is going to be the first 6 steps. And I think it's a good separating point. So the 12 steps are: nail down a winning story idea. Determine whether you're an outliner or a pantser. That's the second step. 3, create an unforgettable main character. 4, expand your idea into a plot. 5, research. 6, choose your voice and point of view. Now that's the first 6 steps. And the next one is start in medias res, in the midst of things. 8, engage the theater of the reader's mind. I wonder what that is. 9, intensify your main character's problems. 10, make the predicament appear hopeless. 11, bring it all to a climax. 12, leave readers wholly satisfied. Now I'm seeing something with the Reedsy one was like the whole process up until publishing. This one is more about the actual writing the story. So this is going to be slightly different from the Reedsy article. Okay, so we're getting into step 1, nail down a winning story idea. And I first saw this step 1 and I thought, winning, how are you supposed to determine winning? Thinking face. So he starts with this. Is your novel concept special? Big enough to warrant 75,000 to 100,000 words? Powerful enough to hold the reader all the way? Come up with a story laden with conflict, the engine that will drive your plot. I based my first novel, Margot, on this idea. A judge tries a man for a murder the judge committed. That sounds very interesting. Take whatever time you need to prioritize your story ideas and choose the one you would most want to read. The one about which you're most passionate and which would keep you eagerly returning to the keyboard every day. It must capture you so completely you can't get it out of your head. Only that kind of an idea will inspire you to write the novel you've always dreamed of. Okay, so yes, that's step one. Interesting. So, unlike other writing advice novels that give steps where they say, like, start with a new idea, find something that is new and exciting, find it new and wonderful, and they don't even tell you exactly what that even means. So, Jerry Jenkins, his name is just so fun to say, Jerry Jenkins. And when you put the B in the middle, it's even more fun. Jerry B. Jenkins. It's just such a nice name to say. Don't you think so? Try saying it 3 times. Jerry Jenkins. Jerry Jenkins. Jerry Jenkins. It's a nice name to say. So the way he goes about this is he is giving an example from his own writing, which is nice. It's so nice to see examples in this writing advice articles because a lot of them do not give any examples, and it's so annoying because I'm like reading it and I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like if I was a newbie writer and reading this, I'm like, oh, I know exactly what to do. But then you think about it and I'm like, wait, I have no idea. So then I go back to the article and then I see that there are no examples. So there's like no help there. But Jerry Jenkins says he's talking about his first novel, Margot. And he is revealing this idea that he had for his first novel. And he is saying that he is not trying to tell you to find a story idea that readers will be interested in. He's telling you to find a story idea that you will be interested in. Because bottom line, you're the one writing the story. You have to be invested in this story, right? So it's a nice thing for him to say that you come first. You, the writer, come first. If you're not interested in it, it's going to show in the story. It really does. I mean, I've read stories where I can tell that the writer wasn't invested in this story at all. So anyway, he is saying, write the novel you've always dreamed of. Now, I want to add something here because I do see a lot of advice where it says choose a story idea or write a story that you would want to read, right? And of course, yes, you would write a story you would want to read, but or they say, like, if you're looking for a story, this type of story, and you can't find it, then you should write it. You know, that sort of thing. I haven't really, that's not how it's been for me. So a lot of my story ideas are just, it's a lot based on the world, really. I come up with some like crazy world idea, and then I see a character in that world, or I see a character in the world and I'm like, who was that character? Let me explore, because I'm a pantser. I think Jerry Jenkins says that he's a pantser at some point in this article. I thought I saw it in passing, and we'll see. Okay, so we'll go on to step 2. So far it seems pretty good. At least he's admitting things, and he's telling you that you as a writer can prioritize yourself and write story ideas that you would enjoy. Don't think about the reader yet. Just write something that you would enjoy. And so when he's saying about nail down a winning story idea, I don't think the saying winning story idea was such a good idea. Nail down a story idea would have been fine. I don't think, because winning implies that it's going to sell, right? Because in the end, if that's what you want to do, right? You're not just writing a story. I mean, people who come to these places, these articles, they want to write a story, right? To publish. So, I'm thinking that's what they want. So saying winning is like if it's going to sell. But that's different. He's not saying find a story idea that will sell. He's saying find a story idea that you're passionate about. Okay, so step 2. Determine whether you're an outliner or a pantser. See? Okay, here's where it comes out. If you're an outliner, you prefer to map out everything before you start writing your novel. You want to know your characters and what happens to them from beginning to end. If you're a pantser, meaning you write by the seat of your pants, you begin with the germ of an idea and write as a process of discovery. Germ of an idea. Okay. As Stephen King says, put interesting characters in difficult situations and write to find out what happens. One or the other of these approaches will simply feel most natural to you. But in truth, many of us are hybrids, some combination of the two, needing the security of an outline and the freedom to let the story take us where it will. So do what makes the most sense to you and don't fret if that means incorporating both outlining and pantsing. I cover strategies for both types and talk about how to structure a novel here. Okay, maybe we'll go to that article at some later date. Regardless, you need some form of structure to keep from burning out after so many pages. I'm a pantser with a hint of outlining thrown in, but I never start writing a novel without an idea where I'm going, or think I'm going. Okay, so let's see if there's more. No, there's no more for step 2. Okay, so yeah. I think Reedsy also talked about figuring out if you're a plotter or a pantser or something along those lines. You have to choose which one you are. And I gave the criticism on their article that if you're a newbie, you don't know what is what. I mean, I didn't even know the term plotter and pantser before writing. And then I just started writing. I just wanted to write stories, so I just started writing. And then quite later on down the line is when I learned the term pantser, and I thought, oh, that's what I've been doing this entire time. So that. I need to check the time for a moment. Hold on. Okay. I have other things to do today too, so I need to be aware of the time. So, okay, if you're an outliner, you prefer to map out everything before you start writing your novel. Okay, yeah, so, it really depends. How do you figure out if you're an outliner, meaning plotter, or a pantser? For me, I just started writing the story. That's just how I've always worked. I didn't really figure out that I tried, okay. After I figured out that I was a pantser, I did pants for many, many years, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to try plotting. I'm going to try plotting because I have this idea for a series, but maybe I should plot it. So I did. And then I couldn't write that story for 2 years. And the reason I couldn't write it was because the stuff that I've outlined and plotted, I felt like it was caging me in. I felt like I had so many limits, and I just felt such severe writer's block that I couldn't write the story at all. And it ended up being 2 years later when I finally decided, okay, so I am going to just keep the basic gist of the story, and I'm going to ignore everything else that I prepared for each book. There are 4 books, and I am just going to write. I'm going to keep a hint of the lore and stuff, magic system that I had come up with. Just keep a hint of it in my noggin and just write. And if I need something from my notes, I'll go look at it. For the majority of the time, I'm not even going to look at it. And the other thing that I did was, when you go to the National Novel Writing Month website, you can actually NaNoWriMo yourself. So basically, you sort of register a book and you set up a goal of like however many words. I did 50K because I thought, why not? And then you set up a time frame. So it was a month. So from whenever I registered the book, I saw, okay, so it's a month. So I didn't start like on January 1st and ended on January 30. How many days is January? 31 days. I didn't do it like that. It was like in the middle of the month to the next middle of the month or something like that. It was all over the place. But I did do that so that I would finish this series and get it out of my head. And it worked for me. And so from that experience, I realized that I am not a plotter. I cannot plot and plan a story at all. It just does not work for me. But doing that exercise helped me realize that I really am not a plotter. So that's actually a good thing. I mean, it's not a good thing that I wasn't able to write a story for 2 years, but it's a good thing that I know exactly what works for me. So I wouldn't say to try to do both or whatever, but just start working on a story. And if you feel better, knowing a lot about your world before you start, then start doing a little planning and see where it takes you. And if you feel antsy about really need to get this story out of your noggin, then just start writing the story. Even if you're in the middle of planning, you can start writing the story. And then you feel like, well, actually, I need to do a little more planning. So then you go back and do a little more planning if you feel like you need it. And then you can go back and forth and then see what feels more comfortable to you. That's what I would do if I were new and I knew the terms outliner and pantser and I knew the different ways of doing it. That's what I would do. Maybe that's a good thing for you to do too. Yes, Jerry B. Jenkins is saying one or the other of these approaches will simply feel most natural to you. And as I said, pantsing just feels more natural to me. Jerry Jenkins says he's a pantser with a hint of outlining thrown in, but I never start writing a novel without an idea where I'm going or think I'm going. I am the same way. I never start writing a novel without an idea. So I usually have a vague an idea for how the story begins and where the character starts out, some vague idea for what happens in the middle, and some vague idea of what happens at the end. The way I work is that I write towards the end. So I know exactly what I want to have happen at the end. I don't know how I'm going to write it, but I kind of know what's going to happen to the characters at the end. And what kind of stuff is going to happen. So I write towards that. That's how I work. Okay, so we went on a long tangent on step 2. Gee whiz. Do people say gee whiz? You know, I don't swear. It's not like I can't swear. I just don't like it. So I've tried to make up my own like swear words and stuff, but I can't. So I tried, but I started saying "oh snap" at one point, and I said "oh snap" in front of my mom, and then she was like, "I can't believe it. You say "oh snap." And so then I stopped saying it because now she's pointed it out, and now I don't feel like saying it anymore. I usually say like "oh my gosh," or "geez," "gee whiz." Sometimes slips out. I don't know why, because I don't usually say it. Anyway, I used to say frick, but I don't really like that word either. It's kind of, I don't know. I have a character that says frick. Okay, she doesn't say it very often, but I do have her saying it. Even though I don't say it. Anyway, step 3 is create an unforgettable main character. And I thought, unforgettable, isn't that subjective? So we'll read. Your most important character will be your protagonist, also known as your lead or your hero-heroine. This main character must experience a life arc. In other words, be a different, better or worse, stronger or weaker person by the end. It says, I use he inclusively to mean hero or heroine. Okay. For most novels, that means he must bear potentially heroic qualities that emerge in the climax. For readers to be able to relate to him, he should also exhibit human flaws. So resist the temptation to create a perfect lead, who can relate to perfection. You'll also have an antagonist, also known as the villain, who should be every bit as formidable and compelling as your hero. Make sure the bad guy isn't bad just because he's the bad guy. Smiley face. He must be able to justify, if only in his own mind, why he does what he does to make him a worthy foe, realistic and memorable. You may also need important orbital cast members. For each character, ask, who are they? What do they want? Why do they want it? What or who is keeping them from it? What will they do about it? Use distinct names, even distinct initials, for every character and make them look and sound different from each other too, so your reader won't confuse them. Limit how many you introduce early. If your reader needs a program to keep them straight, you may not have him for long. Naturally, your lead character will face an outward problem, a quest, a challenge, a journey, a cause, but he also must face inner turmoil to make him really relatable to the reader and come alive on the page. Heroic, inventive, morally upright, and physically strong? Of course, but your protagonist must also face fear, insecurity, self-doubt. The more challenges he faces, the more potential he has to grow and develop. Much as in real life, the tougher the challenges, the greater the potential transformation. Okay, so that is a lot to go over. Why aren't we going back? Come on, screen. Okay. Yes, so the most important character will be your protagonist, also known as your lead or your hero-heroine. Main character must experience a life arc. In other words, be a different, better, or worse, stronger, weaker person by the end. Okay, up to there, okay. For most novels, that means he must bear potentially heroic qualities that emerge in the climax. So, he doesn't, I don't think the character has to have potentially heroic qualities that emerge in the climax. And I say this because you can have a downfall and he doesn't show any heroic qualities in the climax. Like if you want to write a downfall type of story. But Jerry Jenkins is saying for most novels, so, okay. For readers to be able to relate to him, he should also exhibit human flaws. Yes, and the way that he says it here, human flaws, that's the thing. Because if you write a non-human character, like I do in one of my stories, in most of my stories, I have non-human characters. Especially the one that I'm working on now, it has a bipedal feline character, and I have to have her have some humanistic type of flaws. You know, like, I don't know, self-doubt, stuff like that. Because the people who are the people who are reading it are people, you know, they're humans. Humans are reading about this character, so you must show some like human flaws. Yes, you should. Okay, I think so. Resist temptation to create a perfect lead. Yeah, don't create perfection unless outwardly they look perfect, but inwardly they are incredibly flawed. That would be interesting, you know. You also have an antagonist as known as the villain. Okay, so Jerry Jenkins doesn't get into gray characters. So characters, they seem like they're being evil and mean and everything, but then on the other hand, they also doing good things, and you're like, I'm not sure. Is this a villain? Is this guy bad? What is going on? So, and the antagonist doesn't always have to be a character. You can have like a government entity or some dark magic thing. So it's not like somebody is doing the dark magic. It's just maybe existing out there, and the character has to go and destroy the dark magic or something like that. And that's not necessarily, the dark magic is not a character. Maybe the dark magic, when people use it, it hurts their brains or something like that. So it's not that people who use it are bad. It's just that the magic itself is bad. So maybe you can have different kinds of antagonistic forces, not just characters. So I don't think... So Jerry Jenkins is saying you'll also have an antagonist. Make sure the bad guy isn't bad just because he's the bad guy. Well, yes, you can have actual characters, but you don't have to, is what I'm saying. So, also talking about orbital cast members. I've never seen this term used, orbital cast members, before. But anyway, each character asks who are they, what do they want, why do they want it, what or who is keeping them from it, and what will they do about it. So the cast members, they don't all have to be like wanting something specific. Like they don't have to be the supporting character going on the journey. You don't have to ask, what does character A, who is a waitress in this very small role in this one scene, what do they want? They want money because they need to live. I mean, you can do that, but I don't think you have to do it with all the characters that you have. And Jerry Jenkins makes a really good point. Limit how many you introduce early. I have seen some books that are like, they start out with introducing the main character, the main character's best friend, the main character's mom and dad and sister and brother and cousin and aunt and uncle, and it's like the entire family introduced in this one paragraph. And I'm like, wait, who is who, where, what, when, where, why? I have no idea what is going on here because there are so many characters. Don't character dump on me. And sometimes you get this whole like backstory of like who the king and queen are and all that, and like just hold on a moment. Hold on. Let me just figure out who is who. Just give me just a few characters in the beginning. It's like, don't overdo it, please. So that is something that I have tried. I have worked hard in my own story writing, is to introduce as few characters as possible, and also trying to show the main character's relationship with that specific character in the beginning. So it's just the main character by herself, and then the main character with her best friend, and then the main character with her second best friend, and then the main character and how she interacts with her family. So we're introducing them little by little. So first you get to know each individual relationship with the main character. You know what I'm saying? the more challenges he faces, the more potential he has to grow and develop. That is true. I thought that is a good point to make. You really want to put your main character in so many different situations in which that he would grow and develop. Not like some characters who you put them in so many situations and they do not grow and develop, and that's such an annoying character to read. And I'm thinking about Shadow and Bone, and I ranted about this book in another video called Books That Drove Me Crazy, and you can check it out. Shadow and Bone, Lena, she does not grow and develop at all. She's just annoying. She's whiny is like, by book 3, she is still saying, oh my gosh, I hate this place. I hate it so much. We're underground. I hate it so much. I hate my life. And I was like, just stop and be the leader that you're supposed to be if this is the character you were written out to be. I don't know. You know, there's so much wrong with that story. You might not agree with me, and that's fine because it's a very popular book series. But, she does not grow and develop at all. Maybe the people around her, well, some of the people around her grow and develop, I'm sure, but I don't think she did not. Nothing changed. Nothing. And she was just so annoying. Anyway, we're moving on to step 4. Expand your idea into a plot. True pantsers, yes, even some best-selling novelists don't plot. Here's the downside. Like me, you might love being a pantser and writing as a process of discovery, but even we non-outliners need some modicum of structure. Discovering what best-selling novelist Dean Koontz calls the classic story structure in his How to Write Best-Selling Fiction changed my writing forever. My book sales took off when I started following his advice. Okay. And there's a 1, 2, 3, 4 here. We're going to go over that. 1, plunge your main character into terrible trouble as soon as possible. 2, everything your character does to try to get out of that trouble makes it only progressively worse. 3, until his predicament appears hopeless. Finally, everything your hero learns from trying to get out of the terrible trouble builds in him what he needs to succeed in the end. Okay, so I have a picture of some mountains because I thought about expansive mountain region. Sorry, that's a tangent. Terrible trouble, as soon as possible, is when soon as possible. The first hook, the first sentence, the first paragraph, the first page, the first chapter, like what are we talking here? Because I read this book called Perdido Street Station by China Mieville. I'm not saying his name right. And there is no terrible trouble until like quite some way down, actually. We don't get into the terrible trouble. We get into some interesting world stuff in the beginning, but not terrible trouble. So what is he talking when as soon as possible? What does that even mean? No idea. So, oh my gosh, we have a graphy table looking thing, and I start to think of math and my brain shuts off. Yes. Plot elements. Writing coaches call by different names their own suggested story structures, but the basic sequence is largely common. They all include some variation of an opener, the inciting incident that changes everything, a series of crises that build tension, a climax, a conclusion. Regardless how you plot your novel, your primary goal must be to grab readers by the throat from the get-go and never let go. For more on developing, okay, he's sending us to another blog post, which we're not going to get to right now. And more in-depth plotting resources. Mention some more in-depth plotting resources. Okay, so expanding your idea into a plot. So I don't know, there's nothing about this right here much that I can say, because they don't really say where the terrible trouble, he doesn't say where the terrible trouble has to happen. So maybe this, he says, visit my blog post, The Writer's Guide to Creating the Plot of a Story. Maybe he'll talk about the terrible trouble in that, but he doesn't mention, going back, he doesn't mention anything. He doesn't, and it, this kind of thing really depends on the story, I feel. Maybe if you're writing a thriller or a mystery suspense type of story. But I don't know. This plot stuff, I don't know what to say about it. Because he doesn't say when to start when to start talking about the terrible trouble in the story. Do you talk about it in the opener or the inciting incident? Where is the terrible trouble? Is that the inciting incident? I would guess that it's the inciting incident, or maybe it's in the series of crises to build the tension. I have no idea. There's nothing here. There's nothing here I can say. Okay. Step 5 is research, research, research. Sorry, I need to check my time. Okay, time is looking good. Okay. So, research, research, research. Though fiction, by definition, is made up, to succeed, it must be believable. Even fantasies need to make sense. You must research to avoid errors that render your story unbelievable. Once a reader has bought into your premise, what follows must be logical. Effective research allows you to add the specificity necessary to make this work. When my character uses a weapon, I learn everything I can about it. I'll hear about it from readers if I refer to a pistol as a revolver, or if my protagonist shoots 12 bullets from a gun that holds only 8 rounds. Accurate details add flavor and authenticity. Get details wrong, and your reader loses confidence and interest in your story. So, I have a picture of a panda here on this slide because when I typed in research in stock photos, it gave me this panda. So I don't know what this panda has to do with research. Anyway, so there's a continuation. Research essentials. This is a lot of stuff. Consult atlases and world almanacs to confirm geography and cultural norms and find character names that align with the setting, period, and customs. If your Middle Eastern character flashes someone in thumbs up, be sure that means the same in his culture as it does in yours. Encyclopedias. If you don't own a set, access one at your local library or online. YouTube and online search engines can yield tens of thousands of results. Just be careful to avoid wasting time getting drawn into clickbait videos. Use a thesaurus while writing your novel, but not to find the most exotic word. I most often use a thesaurus to find that normal word that's on the tip of my tongue. There's no substitute for in-person interviews with experts. People love to talk about their work, and often such conversations lead to more story ideas. Resist the urge to shortchange the research process. Readers notice geographical, cultural, and technological blunders, and trust me, they'll let you know. Even sci-fi or fantasy readers demand believability within the parameters of the world you've established. One caveat: don't overload your story with all the esoteric facts you've learned just to show off your research. Add specifics the way you would add seasoning to food. It enhances the experience, but it's not the main course. Okay, so about the research, and this is step 5 is when we're doing the research. We're not doing the research when we figure out the story idea, which I find is kind of interesting where he puts this research. So I know from the fact that he is a pantser because he said so. He is a pantser that does a bit of outlining. So pantsers, in my experience as a pantser, do research as we're writing the story. So research isn't a step. It's something that is ongoing throughout the writing process. From my experience, that's what it's been. Because sometimes when you're pantsing, you don't even know what kind of weapon your character is going to be using. Research to avoid errors. I mean, like, okay, so if you are using a real world thing, like if you're writing magical realism set in, I don't know, where should we set it? Iceland. You'd want to know about Iceland, the culture, the roads, street names, place names, like etiquette, stuff like that. But if you have your world in a made-up world, which might be based on Iceland and Norway and I don't know where else, Alaska. I'm trying to think about cold places because I was mentioning cold places. Wait, is Norway a cold place? I think it's a cold place. Is Norway a cold place? Iceland sounds like a cold place, but I think Iceland has more greenery than Greenland because of an interesting story. Anyway, so yeah, so if you're basing it on a bunch of countries, you can do research for inspiration, but you don't have to do research for accuracy. Where it's good to put in accuracy is when real world stuff really come into your story. Like Jerry Jenkins is saying that if his character is using a pistol or a revolver or a gun that shoots 12 bullets or only 8 rounds, and it's a real world thing, right? This gun. It's not like some made up gun that uses, like, I don't know, the solar sun rays gun or something. It's not some kind of fantasy gun. It's an actual real life, real world type of gun. And so then he would research about, like guns and stuff. So I guess similar story with me is that I have a lot of characters default use like stabby weapons, like daggers and stuff. And I needed to educate myself the names of the parts of the dagger, because there is a scene where my bipedal feline, Pinty, finds a dagger and she's studying it because there's some writing on it, and I have to say where the writing is. And I can't say it's on the handle because that's not what you say. So there are different parts of a dagger, names of parts. So things like that connect to, like if you're taking actual real world stuff, then you might do some research on that to make sure you have the names right. It makes sense, because if you say the handle of the dagger, it's like, what the heck are you talking about, right? So, and things like Pinty does healing magic using herbs. So I have to sometimes look up what kind of herbal remedies is there for a scratch or a stomach ache or a cold or a fever, just to make sure that in case there's someone knowledgeable, at least I use the right herb, because these herbs actually do exist in the world. Another thing I'm realizing that I have to be careful with is the environment, because these herbs might not grow there. So I have to figure that out later. But for now, Pinty uses a lot of mint and chamomile and lavender, which I don't know if in the type of environment that she lives in, if it will actually grow there. I can say it does. I can say, oh yes, this does grow here because magic. Or I can say, somehow she has access to this, and I have to figure out how she would have access to this stuff, and that is another headache to deal with later. But those little things, it might just be really little things. The majority of people might not notice those little things, but it does make it a little more believable. Like if you think, is chamomile really used to make you feel sleepy and relaxed? Is perilla tea really used to make you feel relaxed? So you would look it up and you would see, oh, it's actually true. That's neat. That's cool, or whatever people say these days. And you might be a little bit more invested in the story. So it's just the little things that count, I think. I don't know about doing the research as like a step and then like you're never going to do it again, because that's what steps imply. But I think at least, I don't know, outliners might do research at this stage, but at least for a pantser, I don't really do research like at bulk at like once. I do it over the course of the writing of the story, and especially during the editing. I do a lot of the research during the editing, because the first draft is usually just shoving the story out of my noggin. I don't have time to be doing research. Sometimes I just do stop, but sometimes I don't. I was looking up the lightest metal the other day. What is the lightest metal in the world? And then when I figured out what it was lithium. And I figured out that you can't exactly use lithium to make coins, and you can't exactly find lithium in its sort of the environment that my world is in. So I have to figure out the next lightest item, which was magnesium. But magnesium, usually you cannot find magnesium unless there's been like volcanic action. So now I have to figure out how the planet has magnesium if they have so few volcanic mountains. So now I have to figure out if maybe there used to be volcanic mountains, but there aren't anymore, So there was a little bit of that. And this is me during editing, for the billionth time. Just little bitty things. And it's just little bitty things that maybe no one is going to notice. And maybe it's only mentioned once in the entire book. But it kind of matters. Because it's the little things. People notice sometimes, really. Okay, so we're down to the end. And the step 6 is to choose your point of view. Okay. I'm sighing, if you heard the sigh. I don't know if you did. Because aren't we going to why not choose the point of view when we have the story idea? I don't get it. How? What? I can understand if you want to figure out the tense of the story. Are you going to write in past tense, or are you going to write in present tense? I don't know why a lot of these steps articles tell you to choose the point of view way after you've done everything else. Because once you have done that, when you have the story idea, well, let's read. What does he say? What does Jerry Jenkins say? The perspective from which you write your novel can be complicated because it encompasses so much. Your point of view, POV, is more than simply deciding what voice to use. First person, I, me. Second person, you, your. Or third person, he, she, or it. Let me tell you one thing about second person. Please don't write in second person. It's very disturbing. Okay, let's read on. It also involves deciding who will be your POV character, serving as your story's camera. The cardinal rule is one perspective character per scene, but I prefer only one per chapter and ideally one per novel. Readers experience everything in your story from this character's perspective. No hopping into the heads of other characters. What your POV character sees, hears, touches, smells, tastes, and thinks is all you can convey. Some writers think that limits them to first person, but it doesn't. Most novels are written in third person limited. That means limited to one perspective character at a time. And that character ought to be the one with the most at stake in each scene. Writing your novel in first person makes it easiest to limit yourself to that one perspective character, but third person limited is the most common. I don't know about that actually, especially these days. I'm often asked how other characters can be revealed or developed without switching to them as the perspective character. Read current popular fiction to see how the bestsellers do it. One example, the main character hears what another character says, reads his tone and his expression and his body language, and comes to a conclusion. Then he finds out that person told someone else something entirely different, proving he was lying to one of them. Okay. Nope, that's the end, okay? Okay, so, cardinal rule is one perspective character per scene. You can do third person omniscient, which I am tackling and testing out in a story which is only on Wattpad because it's pretty dark. And yeah, it's a dark magical realism story. And I'm tackling omniscient, and I kind of okay. Jerry Jenkins does say the cardinal rule, which implies it's not the absolute rule, right? Right? That's what that means. I am wrong. I am right. I don't know. Okay. So, and he says he prefers only one per chapter and ideally one per novel. So that means he is not the reader for my third person omniscient story, in which the POV is me looking into the room, knowing what all the characters are thinking, feeling, and doing, and seeing, and touching, and tasting, and everything. And narrating that as if I'm telling somebody the story about these silly little characters. Sort of like a, omniscient. Omniscient. It's like if you're looking into a dollhouse. That's kind of how I imagine it when I'm looking at these characters. I'm looking into a dollhouse and I'm narrating exactly what's happening at every single moment, but only the moments that are important to the plot. Anyway, when he talks about no hopping into the heads of other characters, sometimes people are confused when they hear head hopping. They think it's like don't bounce between POVs. That's not what it means. It means the italics thoughts. So if your third person limited story has italic thoughts from another character, that is kind of confusing, and it's a head hop. That's what head hopping is. When you get inside the heads of other characters. Even though this is not, you wouldn't do that anyway. Even if you're writing in first person, you can't hop into the head of another character unless you have telepathy or something. Some writers think that limits them first. Most novels are written third person. Okay, so a lot of young adult fantasy novels, because that's fantasy. Yeah. So, okay. A lot of young adult fantasy novels, a lot of middle grade fantasy novels, fantasy is sort of what I mainly read, but I read a lot of other things too. But a lot of, okay, let me rephrase all my words. Take all those words back. And I'm saying a lot of YA, young adult, and middle grade fiction books are written in first person. Surprisingly, a lot are written in first person. And sometimes you can't tell that by the blurb, because a rule of the blurb is you write in third person for some reason. So yeah, there is a lot of first person books, but there are also a lot of third person books and probably a lot of third person limited books. I don't know how many. I have no idea how one would even look at that. I think it's like a trend too, like if some popular book is written in first person, some popular fantasy is written in first person, a lot of other fantasy books will follow in those footsteps. So yes, so I don't know about that claim here, Jerry Jenkins. First person, also a lot of romance novels, I think, are in first person. A lot of teen fiction novels are in first person. I think because it's easier to get into the minds of the teens if it's first person. I don't really know why people do first person, but I think it's nice. I mean, I prefer third person when reading, but I would read either if the story is interesting. Let's see, what else does he say? I'm often asked how other characters can be revealed or developed without switching to them as a perspective character. Okay, what you do is you develop them behind the scenes, and then you give sort of weight to their words. So for Pinty's novel, I have to think she has a best friend called Kierlan, and Kierlan is I have to figure out sort of behind the scenes who he is, and based on that, what kind of things that he will say and how will he say them. So he's from a really large family of 6-7 brothers, and he's one of the youngest, and he's also very quiet. So I'm thinking about that. And so when he talks to Pinty, who can be a bit of a chatter sometimes, he will naturally sort of be sort of a quiet guy. He's a quiet guy. And then he's also had a bit of some traumatic stuff happen in his childhood with his mom passing away when he was young. So he has that experience. Based on that experience, and if Pinty ever touches upon that, like how would he react based on his personality, based on his experience? So I developed him behind the scenes, and then I make him say stuff based on what kind of character I think this character has, and then based on that, Pinty would respond to that, right? And she would either know about his trauma or not know about his trauma, and then I have to figure out that. So that is how you would do it. And Pinty's story is in third person limited, I think. I'm working on it. This is a rewrite. I can't say the word rewrite unless I pause in the middle. This is a rewrite story. So anyway, that is the first 6 steps. Screen change, please. Okay, so this is going to be a 2-part, and I'm actually going to stop here. So the first 6 steps was interesting because we're choosing the voice and point of view at step 6. I have no idea why we're doing it here and not like when you're nailing down the winning story idea in step 1. But so far, I mean, what he has said in each step, there are some things I agree with, a few things I might have been critical on, but he mentioned some good stuff. The only things I'm a little bit about was the research and point of view. Also how the unforgettable is subjective. And winning story idea. Winning doesn't mean it's going to be a bestseller. Winning wasn't the best choice of word for this first step. So that's what I have for you in this video, and you will see part 2 sometime later, hopefully soon. Well, I already have it all made, so I just need to record it. I'm not going to do that today because I don't have time. Yeah, I don't really have time. I was checking my clock. So, what do we think? Did you have lots of thinks and thoughts? Leave a comment down below. At what point of the writing process do you think that you should establish a point of view? Because I really want to know about this. Because I have no idea now, because so many people, not people, but writing advice articles are putting this so later down the line. I feel like it should be higher up. Is that just me? And these being steps, implying that you do it in this order. So you're not even going to figure out your POV when you're coming up with a character, which I think you would do it there, if not when you're doing the story idea, when you're figuring out the story idea. Well, anyway, so far, as a so far type of rating, I would give this potential 4, but I'm not exactly sure. I think I would give it like a 3.5. Yeah. Or I don't think, no, I won't give it a 3. A 3.5. He deserves the 0.5, I think. There were some nice things that he said, especially in the beginning, where he says that this is the process that works for me. Maybe it can work for you. So that's good to admit, you know, and not trying to sell it as the one and only golden process that everyone has to follow and it will always work kind of thing. He's not saying that, which is nice to see. Okay, so that is the end of this video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and subscribe button, like button, and the fox is out.